Shri Shri Hare 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 Shri 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 Hare 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 Shri 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 Hare.
Start the reading now.
Hare 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 Shri Shri
Hare
Shri
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You can start the reading now.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakya Chakshuranmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Today I'm going to read the book Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita. Abhay remembered how the Gaudiya Math preachers had expended their energy for years in the courts. Having terminated his long entanglement with family and business, he had no taste for a legal fight. He could have fought, but he remembered what Keshav Maharaj had said about Jhansi's being out of the way. Of course, the whole thing had just sprung up here. Otherwise, Abhay would never have chosen to establish his worldwide league in such an obscure place. The educated young men and women wished him well, just as they had good wishes for the Ladies' League, the Theosophy Society, the Arya Samaj, and many other causes. But their good intentions were certainly short of pure surrender and devotion. Even his one disciple could offer him only part time help. But these considerations had not been sufficient to force him out. The real thing was that he was being driven out. Srila Prabhupada, if I did not leave, nobody could drive me. That was a fact. But I thought, who is going to litigate these things? It is the governor's wife, and she is pressing through collector. The manager who is in charge, he had some cinema house, so they had to renew the license, and the collector pressed him that unless you arrange for this house, we are not going to renew your license. I thought unnecessarily this man will be in trouble. I will have to pay many rupees, and she is the governor's wife. He decided to leave. He told his friends to carry on the League of Devotees in his absence. They were sad to see him go, and yet even some of his friends openly praised the work of the Ladies' Society and were glad to see it come. They had not been able to help him financially, although they knew he had been unable to purchase the building on his own. His closer followers were more affected, but he assured them that their relationship would continue. He would write letters to them. Acharya Prabhagar, Radhelal Mullik, Mr. Mitra, Dr. Shastri, and he gave them instructions on what they should do, especially Acharya Prabhagar. Abhay told him he would be calling for him and expected him to continue as secretary of the League of Devotees, even if they didn't make Jhansi their main residence. Yet it was obvious that this chapter of making ambitious plans for a world movement, going from house to house and village to village, performing Sankirtana, lecturing on the Gita, distributing prasadam, this was ended, and it was not likely that he would return or that the residents of Jhansi could expect to see him again. When Abhay left the Bharati Bhavan with its 6 foot high lettering League of Devotees painted across the outside wall, he felt sad. It had been a natural, spontaneous success for him. The young, educated people of Jhansi had looked up to him from the start, and had it not been for the intrigue, he would never have left. But he felt he had no real choice. He had come as a family man on business and was living as a homeless vanaprastha, forced to take shelter of Krishna. His plans were uncertain, but his desire was strong and his health good. So he moved on to Mathura, carrying with him the deity of Lord Chaitanya. Chapter 8, New Delhi, Crying Alone in the Wilderness. I have got the clue of going back to Godhead just after leaving my present material body, and in order to take along with me all my contemporary men and women of the world, I have started my paper Back to Godhead as one of the means to the way. Please don't think of me as something wonderful or a madman when I say that I shall go back to Godhead after leaving my present material body. It is quite possible for everyone and all of us. From a letter to India's President, Mr. Rajendra Prasad. When Abhay arrived in Mathura, he sought out Kesha Maharaj, who was now establishing his matha, and presented him with the deity of Lord Chaitanya. As Keshav Maharaj request, Abhay agreed to stay there and edit the Gaudiya Patrika. Abhay was given a room, and for the first time, aside from brief visit, he lived in a matha with his god brothers. As a senior, experienced devotee, Abhay held classes and instructed the brahmacharis who were young, uneducated, and even illiterate in the disciplines of devotional service and the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. He had only recently begun his duties when Bhaktisaranga Goswami, another sannyasi godbrother, asked Bhaktivedanta Prabhu to assist him in New Delhi at his ashrama, Gaudiya Sangha. Both Keshav Maharaj and Bhaktisaranga Goswami recognized Abhay as an accomplished writer and editor and wanted to work with him. It was accepted among Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's disciples that A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhu was an expert preacher and writer, whether in English, Hindi, or Bengali. Now, Kesha Maharaj wanted Abhay to stay and work on the Gaudiya Patrika, while Bhaktisaranga Maharaj, who had to go to Bengal, was requesting him to come to Delhi to produce the harmonist, known in Hindi as Sajjana Toshani. Abhay was agreeable to Bhaktisaranga Goswami's proposition, and Kesha Maharaj consented on the condition that Abhay also continues to edit the Gaudiya Patrika, at least by mail. As an editor, Abhay was in his element, and he was happy to preach in cooperation with his god brothers. Although Abhay did not consider himself an accomplished scholar or author, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had been pleased by his writings and had encouraged him to continue. And now these senior sannyasis of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati were turning to him for help. They were practically competing to see who would get the benefit of his services. Perhaps Abhay thought this should be his life's work, serving humbly under the direction of his god brothers. His ejection from Jhansi had been a kind of setback. At least it had left him temporarily unsure of how Krishna wanted to use him. But now his god brothers seemed to be answering the question. Living and working in an ashrama with brahmacharis and sannyasis was a way of life Abhay had once considered too austere. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had remarked, better he live outside your company, but now he would either have to struggle alone with nothing or stay within the shelter of a friendly portion of the Gaudiya Math. Perhaps he could carry out his desires to preach Krishna consciousness within the ashramas of his god brothers. Since it would soon be the editor of Sajjana Toshani, he began thinking of how to expand it. It was a scholarly Vaishnava journal, but cheaply produced and with a very limited circulation. He envisioned it surpassing India's slick illustrated weekly. It should be more popular than Time or Life magazines of America. And why not? Krishna was no poor man. Abhay thought of how he could start an ambitious subscription program by approaching the many prominent and wealthy men of New Delhi. Then, by Krishna's grace, he would soon be able to print color photos and use high quality paper for Sajjana Toshani. He would give it to his best effort depending on Krishna. And while soliciting subscribers, he could take his book manuscripts and try to get them published. Dr. Alagappa in South India had wanted to publish his Gita Upanishad, no doubt. There were many men like him, or perhaps Bhaktisaranga Goswami would be willing to publish Abhay's work with funds from the Gaudiya Sangha. Hare Krishna.